Hey guys, it's Soleil Stone here and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be doing a video about SpongeBob SquarePants and the very first pilot episode that came out in May 1st, 1999. But did you guys know that in the very first episode of SpongeBob, there was an episode where SpongeBob was doing the Krabby Patties just to show how impressive he was in his cooking skills, but we don't know where he gets them from. But however, and yeah, that's kind of weird. I really want to know how he was able to cook those Krabby Patties. Who taught him how to do that? But anyways, as I was saying, so SpongeBob was trying to work at the Krusty Krab. It was his very first job he ever wanted. It was his dream, his legacy to work at the Krusty Krab. So, speaking of legacies, during the montage of that episode, there would be a soundtrack that was played. And that soundtrack was sung by the famously known, I wouldn't say very famous, very mainstream, but at least he was well known for his unique, iconic voice, and that would be Tiny Tim. The song was originally written by Al Sherman and Al Lewis for the 1930 film The Big Pond. This would be one of the very first songs played in the series sung by a real musician. And I believe it would be a tribute to Tiny Tim, who unfortunately passed away in 1996. But not only that, the song matched the montage of how SpongeBob was preparing the Krabby Patties, how whimsical SpongeBob could really be when it comes to doing a great job, a great service to the Krusty Krab. So it would really match his aura, his vibe, and it really just matched really well of how, very effective SpongeBob is when he does his job, which is making Krabby Patties, literally. So anyways, join me today as we dive in to a video talking about Tiny Tim, his life and legacy, and his contribution to the very first episode of SpongeBob SquarePants, written and created by Stephen Hillenburg. Born on April 12, 1932, Herbert Butros Khaury, sorry for butchering his name. Tiny Tim was born to a Lebanese father and a Polish Jewish mother. He grew up in a working class family and showed an early interest in music, especially songs from early 20th century, despite facing a lot of rejection due to his unconventional voice and style. He continued to pursue music passionately. In the 1950s and early 60s, Tiny Tim performed under various names in clubs and talent shows around New York City. His big break came in 1968 when he appeared on the popular TV show Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In. His performance of Tiptoe Through the Tulips, a song originally from the 1920s, became an instant hit and he became a household name almost overnight. Tiny Tim's persona was a mix of oddity and charm. He was often seen as a novelty act, but his knowledge of early 20th century music and his ability to revive forgotten songs earned him a place in the hearts of many. His appearance on the TV show The Tonight Show in 1969, where he married his wife, Miss Vicky, in front of millions of viewers, remains one of the most watched television events of that time. Despite his fame, Tiny Tim never quite fit into the mainstream of the music industry. So basically, this guy is making YouTube music parodies, right, or covers, if you will, through his falsetto iconic voice, but it doesn't give a lot of attention. But I swear to you now, if he was a YouTuber, he would have gotten some attention. In fact, he would probably garnish a lot of fans along with it. And it's crazy how he looks so close to Weird Al, like he almost looks exactly like Weird Al, but before Weird Al was a thing. You know how he makes parody music? Well, this was Weird Al before his time, so that's crazy. His career fluctuated throughout the 1970s and 1980s with periods of obscurity and occasional resurfacing into popularity. He continued to perform until his death in 1996. Tiny Tim's influence extended beyond his lifetime, particularly through his contribution to the popular animated TV show SpongeBob SquarePants. His rendition of Livin' in the Sunlight, Lovin' in the Moonlight, originally a song written in 1930 by Maurice Chevalier, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, was used in the pilot episode of SpongeBob SquarePants in 1999. This choice of song perfectly captured the quirky, cheerful, and slightly surreal tone of the show. Tiny Tim's music set the stage of the whimsical and offbeat atmosphere that became a hallmark of SpongeBob SquarePants. The song inclusion introduced a new generation of Tiny Tim's unique style and helped cement his legacy as a pop culture icon. On September 28, 1996, Tiny Tim recorded a video interview at the Montague Book in Massachusetts. He suffered a heart attack at a ukulele festival. He was hospitalized at the nearby Franklin County Medical Center in Greenfield, Massachusetts, for approximately 3 weeks before being discharged. After hospitalization, Tiny Tim was recommended that he should not perform after his hospitalization. His weight, his health, and his dietary needs for his diabetic and heart condition could not suffice, but unfortunately, Tiny Tim ignored those advices. On November 30th, 1996, Tiny Tim was playing at a gala benefit hosted by the Women's Club of Minneapolis. He wasn't feeling well, but he didn't want to disappoint his fans. Most of the audience has left during his performance, and in the middle of performing his last number of the evening, Tiny Tim performed one of his songs, Tiptoe Through the Tulips, but unfortunately suffered another heart attack on stage. He was transported to the, I can't even pronounce this, Hennepin County Medical Center, where after repeated revival attempts, he was pronounced dead at 11:20 p.m. Tiny Tim was later buried at a mausoleum in Lakewood Cemetery in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He was 64 years old. Tiny Tim's legacy is being true to himself, being unique compared to other artists. His individuality would also stand for a very first and prominent stance for other artists in the future who would want to contribute their own style of artistic waves. Basically meaning that if you are an artist and you're different in your own way, then you would be most likely as successful as Tiny Tim. Although it's not very promising, it's understandable that when it comes to being an artist, being very different than other artists compared to you would also put you on a spotlight and would gain your own audience. There are way more people out there in the world, and the fact that this isn't 1969 anymore, it's a possibility that if you have your own unique style of making music and your own weird way of making music, let it be known to the world. You will never know. Maybe one day you could become successful and wealthy, just as Tiny Tim was with his music. Although there was challenges and although it's not that promising, I can assure you that there will be people out there that can accept you for who you are and how you make music. And it doesn't have to be music. It just has to be art in general, something people could visualize and see for themselves. And if you are an artist yourself, then I highly encourage you to do something in order to become a somebody tomorrow. And according to the legendary voice actor himself, Tom Kenny considers that this song would be one of the greatest songs ever recorded. So coming from a guy who voices the most iconic cartoon character of all time, says that Tiny Tim's music, well, it wasn't his music, but it was sung by him at least. Like, it was a cover song. That should tell you how much of a legend Tiny Tim is. The fact that he was able to be acknowledged for his work, and the fact that he was put in as a staple into one of the very first episodes of the most iconic, globally successful cartoon show of all time, and that was SpongeBob SquarePants.